Welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting for CitrineOS. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Linux Foundation Energy's antitrust policy notice, I suggest you take a moment now to review it. A quick recap of what this project is about. CitrineOS is an open source charging station management system. It's a Linux Foundation Energy project initially authored by S44 Energy. On the left, using it and details about its architecture and APIs. On the right hand here, you can find a YouTube channel, S44 Insights, where we post regular videos, webinars that are both explaining CitrineOS and also other aspects of the protocols that it uses, such as OCPP and OCPI. I see you're saying you lost me. Am I back? Perfect. I'm going to dive into the current state of development. Our most recent release was 1.7.0. This was a relatively large release. We finally finished implementing multi-tenancy, so there's been a surface level amount of support for multi-tenancy in CitrineOS Core for a while, and now it is completed. The system configuration, which is used to alter the behavior of CitrineOS when deploying it, was refactored to make it easier to understand and use. And we had a few small quality of life improvements. The concurrent transaction check is now optional for authorizations, meaning that if you want to have one type of authorization, such as an RFID card, be able to authorize multiple sessions, that's now possible. Meter value handling was improved to be able to process different measure ends. This was important for compatibility with certain charging stations, which didn't deliver the expected measure ends for energy. And WebSocket servers can be managed at runtime now. So if you want to create new WebSocket servers or delete old ones, you can do it without needing to restart Citrine. There was also a release in the operator UI, which is the UI component that goes on top of CitrineOS Core's microservices. Network operators, controllers of charge point networks, use this user interface to get an overview of their network and control their chargers. This newest release adds support for the auth provider and access control provider interfaces provided by refine.dev. Refine.dev is another open source project that we've used to construct this user interface. And these interfaces allow it to have access management and user management, meaning that now the product is more secure. There are also some quality of life improvements on the operator UI. The OCPP logs can be searched now, and the 1.6 configuration keys can be exported as a CSV file, which can be useful for keeping track of the configuration available on your chargers. So our current release candidate is a large refactor of CitrineOS Core. So 1.8.0 will involve changing the data that is persisted by CitrineOS Core in a few different ways. So one, we're going to be adding some interface classes. This is going to make it easier to make sure that CitrineOS Core remains compatible with different versions of the other dependencies in the project, such as CitrineOS Operator UI and also CitrineOS OCPI, which we'll get into in a moment. Regarding OCPI, OCPI is the protocol that allows charging station networks to communicate with mobility service providers. So when you see, for example, charging stations that are available on Google Maps or aggregate apps that let you view charging stations from multiple networks at once, the way that that information gets to those mobile apps or dashboard apps is via OCPI. So we're going to be adding some OCPI fields to the objects in CitrineOS Core so that we can support OCPI upstream. And on that note, the data models that are persisted by CitrineOS Core are going to move away from simply extending OCPP 201 types. So the project was originally based on OCPP 201. And at that point in time, we made all the data that we persisted direct references to object types referenced in the OCPP 201 protocol. Now that we have a multi-protocol stack where we support both OCPP 201 and OCPP 1.6, and also now OCPI 2.2.1, it's very important that the data that CitrineOS Core manages is protocol agnostic. So we will be moving away from using interfaces directly from OCPP 201 in favor of custom interfaces that will make it easier for us to support a multi-protocol stack. So in addition to the CitrineOS Core repository, there are a few extra repositories on the CitrineOS GitHub. One of them is the CitrineOS OCPI repository, and that contains a series of modules that are designed to add a OCPI layer to CitrineOS. This repository is going to be seeing a 2.0.0 release. This is a major refactor. Previously, the OCPI layer was an extra set of libraries that allowed you to enhance the microservices defined in CitrineOS Core with an OCPI layer. The refactor will make it so that these OCPI modules are actually their own independent microservices, so they will be loosely coupled to CitrineOS Core. And this is going to be done by making them dependent on the GraphQL API that CitrineOS Core exposes, as well as by hooking into the Postgres database that CitrineOS Core uses and using a listen notify pattern in order to get updates whenever data in CitrineOS Core is changed. This will allow us to support both OCPI pulls and pushes. So there'll be a new microservice, new module in CitrineOS OCPI specifically to support those events from the database and push them north so that we can transform them into OCPI objects and then broadcast them to upstream MSP partners. And we will also be taking some steps to make it possible for this OCPI library to support multiple versions of OCPI. So although 2.2.1 is by far the most widely used version of OCPI, there are newer versions that the industry will be moving towards slowly. There is a 2.3.0 version, which is already released, that we will be looking to implement soon. And there is a 3.0 version that is in the works that will also be fully released, possibly this year or early next year. And we'll also be making some changes in the operator UI. Mostly this is just to support the changes to the data in CitrineOS Core. Any fields that are added, any collections that are modified will require some changes on the operator UI side. There will also be some support added for OCPI specific actions. And of course, if there are any issues or feature requests between now and when this release moves forward, they will be added to this release candidate. So beyond these release candidates that we have open right now that we expect to see fully releasing in 2 weeks or so, there are some other roadmap items. In the near term, in the coming months, we will be completing the OCPI 2.2.1 implementation. So we already have a workable OCPI implementation for most use cases, but there are some edge use cases that were not implemented in the original work done on the repository. So we're going to expand upon those. And we will also be revisiting OCPP 1.6. we implemented all of the core messages in 1.6 needed to run charging sessions, but there are some advanced use cases such as smart charging and plug-in charge and pricing that we did not cover. Plug-in charge and pricing are technically not in the 1.6 protocol, but there are some white papers that have been widely adopted that define messages for them. So we're going to be implementing those. Beyond that, OCPP 2.1 is a high priority for us to also add support for. It's a newer version of OCPP. It's not a major change. It is mostly backwards compatible. The changes are focused on adding support for the newer version of ISO 15118, which is the specification that supports plug-in charge. ISO 15118-2 was what was supported in OCPP 201. And in OCPP 2.1, they are going to be adding messages to support ISO 15118-20, which has additional messages and functionalities mostly related to vehicle-to-grid charging. We'll also be adding support for OCPI 2.3.0. 2.3.0 is mostly small changes that are also backwards compatible, but there are some additional optional modules added in it that are already in use in many places. Specifically, there's a payment terminal module that is added that was not previously in OCPI that allows for one payment terminal to be used for multiple charging stations, which is an increasingly common setup. So it is important that it is supported. Moving on to the community matters. So a quick overview of how the CitrineOS community operates. Our current contributors involves people from S44 Energy, the authors of the project. We also have a module that was a repository rather that was submitted by Stackbox. They added a Stripe integration with CitrineOS payments. Our Discord, which you can find an invite for on our GitHub IO page, or there will also be an invite at the end of this presentation, has over 400 members, roughly a quarter of which have indicated an intent to contribute. I do strongly suggest that if you are interested in learning more about the project, or more importantly, if you're interested in contributing in any way, that you join the Discord. There's a lot of conversations that have there. People are pretty quick about answering questions. And it's also a good place if there's a feature that you want that doesn't currently exist for you to talk about that and receive some feedback. So in order to be a contributor, all you need to do is have one PR that gets merged. There are no ongoing responsibilities associated with that role. There's also a committer role, which does involve some responsibilities. You do need to be active in email lists and on Discord. You need to assist with reviewing and approving PRs. And at least 25% of your time weekly must be committed to CitrineOS. People who are accepted by a majority of the current committers to become a committer get to vote on the future of the project. I'd like to emphasize that the feature roadmaps, as always, when we discuss them, are not set in stone. These are actively influenced by the feedback we receive from the community, and we do change what our priorities are, have done in the past, in accordance with what people are saying is most important for them. I believe I recognize everyone in the meeting, so I don't think there's any introductions to be had. After this technical steering committee meeting, you can follow up on our GitHub IO page. You can also subscribe to our listserv. This recording will be made available on YouTube, and you can scan this QR code here to join our Discord community. Thank you, everyone.